Welcome to the Mixed Race Belonging podcast, where we explore the intersection of mixed identity and belonging through the lens of somatics and personal and collective liberation to help you heal your belonging wounds and reconnect with your innate wholeness through relationships, new experiences, and activism. I'm your host, Raina LaGrand, an embodiment coach for mixed race people with a background as a trauma therapist, yoga teacher, and health educator. The tools and insights I share with you here are the approach that has not only helped me heal my belonging wound, but also helped me help my mixed race clients do the same. We all need something good to belong to right now. Relationships and spaces where we feel safe, held, seen, heard, and dignified. Thanks for being here, and let's get started with today's show. Mixed Race Belonging Podcast, coming at you from Ypsilanti Township in Michigan on unceded Anishinaabe land. And yes, that is Ypsilanti. Often when I'm on the phone with like a call center, they see my, address, they're like, how do you pronounce that? Ypsilanti. Starts with a Y. Anyway, I digress. Welcome to the show. Today, I'm going to talk you through what the hell belonging is. Because it's one of those words that's like, ooh, sounds nice, but like, what exactly is it? It can sometimes feel intangible. And actually, I have the anonymous survey in my show notes and on my website where people can tell me a little bit about what you want to hear on the podcast and what questions you have. And somebody was like, what even is belonging? So let's get into it. As you might know, I have been working on writing a book in addition to, my work with clients directly. And so in the process, I've read probably about 30 books either directly about belonging or sort of tangentially about belonging in the past year and a half. And I have distilled it down to some major themes, and I'm going to take you through them today because I don't think defining belonging is like easy or straightforward. I think actually there are myriad definitions, and all of them have something to offer. Many of them share themes. And I think that belonging also probably means different things to each of us, dependent on our unique history and like how our belonging wound was shaped, how our belonging wound happened to us, in what ways belonging became out of reach for us. So I think I have 6 major themes here that I'm going to talk us through. And yeah, if you have any other questions, like feel free to DM me, email me. And this is something I'd love to just be in conversation about. So for one, belonging has both inner and outer components. On the inside, it is effective, meaning that it is something that is felt and confirmed in our body. Without actually feeling belonging is kind of irrelevant. Like it's something we actually have to feel, and that clicks and is like, oh yes, this is belonging, right? And of course, there are outer components to belonging, our relationships with other people and things, which brings me to the second theme, which is that belonging has many levels. It happens on many levels. We have self-belonging, like inner belonging to and with ourselves. We have belonging with other individuals, small groups, or larger communities. So I think of like, you might feel a deep sense of belonging with a singular friend. You might feel a deep sense of belonging at your church or your yoga studio. And you might feel a deep sense of belonging in your like town that you live in, right? Like belonging can also be place-based. It also sometimes isn't place-based, right? Sometimes it's I feel a sense of belonging with mixed people around the world, right? Like more of like a cultural belonging. I feel a sense of belonging with other autistic people who just get me. I feel a sense of belonging with people who are, fighting for racial justice. So that belonging can be found through cultural experiences, cultural communities, or shared values, hobbies. I think another layer of belonging that has become more and more clear and important to me over time as I've deepened into this work is thinking about belonging here on Earth. That Earth is our home and it is going through it. It might not be our home forever. But and also that, really like the origin of the belonging wound, when we think about it as like an intergenerational phenomenon, that if we go all the way back, I think the belonging wound starts with our disconnection from earth and land, of being forced to, our ancestors being forced to stop practicing their spiritual and animist traditions that had them connected to the land and the seasons and the plants and the animals. And actually, a big part of my work with clients is thinking about how we can reconnect to earth, how we can find belonging in nature, and how we can feel the earth as an unwavering sense of support underneath our bodies. Because gravity is holding us here. And in the times when we feel like we don't have a lot of support, where we don't feel held, we can return to the earth. And that, I feel like, really is a great segue into another major theme here, which is that belonging is inherent and innate. We don't always feel like we belong. We don't always have that affective component, but actually we do. We inherently belong on this planet, in our families and in our communities. We didn't ask to be here, but some magic brought you here, whether that feels religious, spiritual, or scientific to you. As human beings, we are nature and we belong here on this earth. We are an integral part of this large ecosystem. Yeah. All right, so the next major theme is that belonging isn't just inclusion, right? And this makes me think of like diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, or diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Belonging isn't just inclusion. We feel like we belong when we not only feel connected, but we also feel like valued members of a community. One of the books that has been really supportive to me, and somebody whose work has been really supportive to me, is belonging researcher John Powell, and the book that he co-wrote with Stephen Menendian. Hope I'm saying that correctly. And they say in their book that their book is Belonging Without Othering. They say that the primary elements of belonging include connection, recognition, inclusion, and agency. Connection, recognition, inclusion, and agency. So connecting to one another, being recognized, being seen, being included in the process, and having agency, having voice, having like weight in what happens in the community. And in that sense, belonging is also political. When we think about so many of the social problems that we are dealing with right now, so many of them come down to who belongs and who doesn't, who has a right to shape policies and who doesn't, right? Who has a right to access certain resources and who doesn't, right? true belonging without othering means that there's more agency, right? In this, that everybody has sort of like equal agency in a community, whether that's a small community or a larger national community or global community. Yeah, belonging is political. I mean, I think this makes me think a lot of our houseless population and how, yeah, they've been relegated to the streets, right? That, and when I say we, I guess I mean like the dominant sort of oppressive entity. And maybe that doesn't feel like a we that we want to identify with, but we as like a collective culture, society, we have treated housing as something that has to be earned instead of something that is just a right, a need, right? So belonging is political. Next, belonging allows, and this is sort of similar, I'd say, belonging allows for our individuality and autonomy. It is not fitting in. Brene Brown actually says belonging is the opposite of fitting in. Belonging, we only experience when we feel like we can really be ourselves. We might find belonging through some shared connection, shared values, shared interest, shared phenotype. But we also, like, we actually don't know that we belong until we see that the ways that we are different are also welcome and accepted, right? And I think this is like a huge thing for us as mixed race people to think about, because I know so many of the people I work with will say, I don't fit in anywhere. And it also, that feels like so, for some people, I think so unique to our experience as mixed race people. But actually, I think no human fits in everywhere perfectly. There are always going to be elements of our personality, our phenotype, our interests that differ from like the collective, the community that we're in. And there's actually, that's true for every single person in that community, that there's a diversity of who we are. So when I'm working with clients on, okay, let's, build you a sense of belonging, whether that's whatever sort of project we're working towards, whatever sort of specific thing we're working on, it's like, can you really focus on those people, those places that accept you for you, and all of you who are like, yeah, you're light skinned, but you're black. Or like, yeah, you're a little anxious, but you still belong here. I don't know. That's just like a random example I'm thinking of. So belonging allows for our individuality and autonomy. And that, I think, is a good tell for whether or not the space that you're trying to enter is worth it. If you are expected to conform in a certain way that doesn't feel authentic, then that might not be the place for you to find belonging. Yeah. All right, next is that belonging is generally understood to be a practice and a process. It's not a destination. It's not static. It ebbs and flows over our lifetime and in different situations. One of the things that I do with clients is we do a belonging timeline. Like, what are the times in your life when you felt more belonging or less belonging? What are the major markers that sort of shaped how you viewed your identity and your sense of belonging? And what are the major, experiences that like shaped your belonging wound? So, and I think, our sort of Western global North minds can often think of belonging as like we're climbing this mountain until we get to the pinnacle. But there are so many times when, it's just so normal that there might be times when you feel more belonging and less belonging. You might have felt a lot of belonging in college, and then after college, people all move away, and then you're not feeling so much belonging. And then you start to build your friend group and in the town that you live in, and you start to feel more belonging. And then people start having kids, and maybe you're not having kids, right? And that is so normal. It doesn't mean that you aren't worthy of belonging. It's just how life goes. And again, like, coming back to feeling the earth underneath you as that constant source of support. And in a way, there's something here too around like object permanence, that even if we aren't proximate to the people and the communities where we feel the most belonging, that doesn't mean that we're not belonging in those spaces anymore. It just means that we're not as physically close. One of the books that I read by Kim Dobbs, and oh gosh, what was her book called? I'm looking at my list of books right now, which I'm going to drop a link to in the show notes. Of course, I cannot find, I think her book was, it's just called like You Belong Here. That's what it's called. Kim Dobbs, in her book, defines belonging this way: belonging. Be is to exist. Long is the desire. Ing is the continual action. So belonging is to exist in the desire and to be in continual action towards belonging, which I just love. And I talk a lot with my clients. We talk a lot in Belonging Building Blocks about our longings. What are our longings? I've also heard belonging as like being in the long, like being in it with someone for the long, and that doesn't mean that belonging is always like rainbows and butterflies, or that you always are feeling super connected, or that you always like the people that you have belonging with, but that to be in community means to be in it for the long haul. So there's so many different things that belonging means. And I really just want to leave you with this, that belonging isn't something we have to earn or be deserving of. It is our birthright. The ways that we don't feel like we belong are real and painful, but they don't define our worthiness of belonging or the possibility for belonging. Just think there are a million different people in the world, billions of people in the world, and like we can at least find 1, 2, 3 people where we can find belonging. Also, my friend and my colleague, Marika Heinrich, says that belonging is the blueprint of the body. Our bodies are wired for belonging and connection, for bonding. So we don't always feel like we have it, right? But like it's something that our bodies are always searching for and have the innate capacity for. And it's something that I can help you like be more available for through working with me in coaching. I might do a whole podcast episode on some like refinements to my one-on-one coaching program that have been happening, but something that is newer to the program is that each client I work with will identify a belonging project. That could be personal or professional, and that could be really deepening into an ancestral practice. It could be doing genealogy work. It could be, hosting a mixed race meetup in your community. It could be organizing a multiracial affinity space at your company. It could be getting out on the dating scene, right? And so these are all sort of like projects that you can work towards. And along the way, I will support you and your body with all of the like bumps and twists and turns and all of the like old stuff that comes up that might make you feel challenged. We'll build you a toolkit of like somatic resources so that you can really feel like I got this. And really like this project is because I want you to find purpose in belonging, that you don't have to wait for belonging to come to you, that you also get to be in the process and the practice of belonging, and you get to shape belonging, that you have agency in cultivating belonging for yourself, and also if your project lands this way, cultivating belonging for others, because belonging is co-created. That should actually be like another major theme, is that belonging is co-created. It's not one-sided, right? And it's not something that happens just like passively. It's something that we really have to work towards. So if you're interested in talking more about this, whether that's working one-on-one together or just like thoughts about these different themes that I've named, I'd really, really, really love to hear your opinions. Feel free to DM me, email me, reach out, let's talk, let's connect, and I can't wait to hear from you. See you next week.